Hey everyone, welcome back to the Not Just a Bikini Girl podcast. Firstly, thank you so much to everyone who has already subscribed to the podcast. Really does mean a lot, and it means that we can spread this message and get as much exposure so everyone can hopefully start feeling mentally and physically stronger. Now, I'm going to go straight into the next guest that I've got on the podcast. I'm super excited to have this lady on. We've been I think we've known each other for just over a year now, and she started off doing UK UP, and she'll probably talk a bit more about this, and she won best overall legs. And then I first actually saw her when she competed at the PCA Hampshire, and she won the bikini trained and the overall female winner at the Mr. Hampshire, and then she went on to the finals to win second place. Now, what really interested me about this lady was after her show, she speaks very openly about her journey with mental health and her relationship with her body and just the whole competing kind of realm in a lot more personable, relatable way. So I'm really excited to have this lady on. She works out of Chapel Gym in Corby. So welcome to the show, Katt. I'm so excited. So if you just want to give everyone a quick introduction to yourself and kind of your journey and how you kind of got to the competing life.
Hello. I don't know really where to start. I've been training myself for about, it's nearly 5 years now. But I initially started training, to lose weight. I think that's what everyone does. But then I really found that it had a real effect on kind of my mental health, and it improved massively. So I used to just train to be happy. And then I got qualified as a PT. I used to be a wedding photographer, and was doing that for a while. And I was just kind of a bit bored, and I kind of wanted a challenge. So yeah, I decided to compete. Got myself a coach, and that was it really. It just kind of went from there, and here we are now. A year later, and I don't know, I've just had the craziest year of my life, I'll be honest with you. So yeah, I'm just really glad to be here. I'm very happy.
No, good. It's good to hear. So how did you feel were the PCA and the UK UP that you did, was that your first year of competing?
Yeah, my first ever year. So the plan was to do one show. I just wanted to do it. Like I say, I'm more confident now, but I wasn't very confident. Kind of the thought of getting up on stage was terrifying. The diet and the training I knew I could do. It was more the kind of actually having to put myself out there a little bit and get on stage with no clothes on, basically. So that was the initial goal. But then everyone after I competed the first time, PCA was a new federation, and a lot of people were saying to me that I should kind of go in for bikini trained, and I wasn't really sure. And then I just kind of thought, why not? Like, I kind of put the work in, I might as well just do another one, and I loved it. And yeah, again, it just kind of went from there, really.
So how did you find the overall kind of contest prep experience? Because some people kind of sail through it. They're in very fortunate circumstances that they can just keep eating refeeds until the show days. Some people have to really dig deep. How did you get on with it?
I loved it. For me, I was in my head, I was gonna do it, and I wanted to do it to the best I could do it. So for me, it wasn't even like kind of giving up certain foods and things like that. It just wasn't even really an issue for me. Like, I just had my plan and I just did it. And I kind of, over the months I was kind of cutting, it was quite a long period of time as well. I gave myself quite a lot of time, so it was fairly slow, and I kind of was ready early, which was good. But yeah, I just enjoyed it. You didn't hear me moan about anything. Like, I think at the end of the day, we choose to put ourselves through this prep. So by moaning about it, there's just no point, really.
No, that's true. Like, it's kind of saying, yeah, I'm tired, but it's not constantly saying to everyone, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm hungry, because it kind of, my boyfriend's very much the same.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think people like almost obsess about food to a point, kind of, and it's like, well, there's just it was almost like it wasn't food wasn't really a thing for me for those like 6 months or whatever. It was just kind of it was something that I had to do, so I just did it and would just try to be as happy as possible while doing it. Obviously, there was times when it was hard, but I don't know. I think I was just so excited by what I was doing, and it was all new and just yeah, it was just a journey, and it was so much fun.
So what happened? Talk to us about the post-show rebound. Well, if you had one, per se, because that's a topic that's discussed quite a lot on Instagram, and people's experiences vary considerably, as you're probably aware. So how did you get on with, reversing or coming out of those shows for the first time?
Yeah, I think everyone has a very different experience post show. It's a very strange time, I think. Well, first of all, I after my last so after the PCA finals, I 3 days later, I think it was, I flew out to Australia to go and see my brother for 3 weeks, and I'm just going to be perfectly honest, like I wasn't in a great mental state. I mean, I was okay, but like obviously I was exhausted from kind of doing 3 shows in the space of like I don't know, I think it was like 4 weeks or something. Like it was crazy. Um, and I wasn't really given too much guidance on what to do in regards to my food and stuff. It was kind of just, eat and train. But I think there was no kind of reversing. There was no real solid plan, and I was kind of almost left to my own devices a bit. And obviously, we all know that when you're crazy stage lean, you suffer. Everyone will suffer with body dysmorphia to a point. And yeah, I was convinced I was fat and kind of didn't eat enough. And I was training really, really hard because I had a little bit of extra food in me. And yeah, I ended up making myself pretty poorly. And by the time I came home, I wasn't in a very good way, unfortunately. I'm a lot better now, which is brilliant. But the experience that I had has made me very aware of other girls maybe in similar positions. And obviously, I put a client in for a show whenever it was, kind of earlier in the year, and I was just very, very careful with what I was doing with her post show, because it's all well and good kind of getting stage lean and stuff, but the sort of mental health problems that can kind of come with that are very serious. And I think as a coach, you have a responsibility to look after a client. If you're willing to help someone get that lean and into kind of that state, it's your responsibility to help them come back out of it. And a lot of people will argue and say, I'm not a counsellor, like, you shouldn't be dealing with that. But in my opinion, body and mind are one. And
Yeah.
I didn't have, well, I had no emotional support at all, really, and no solid plan. So I was kind of, just a bit lost. But I know now, when I do compete again, where I went wrong, and I won't make those mistakes again. And I also would never let any of my clients make the same mistakes. Health is very important.
So what would you say were the key things that you took away from the last time you reversed dieted out of a show, and any advice that you can kind of give to someone else who could potentially be in that same situation? What would you tell them?
Don't go to Australia 3 days after you've competed and dieted for like 9 months. No, I would say first of all, I would say get a good coach, do your research, and get someone who knows what they're doing and cares. That's massively important. I know there's a lot of coaches that kind of see clients as paychecks, and that's not cool. And also, the obvious one is don't be afraid to eat. That was something I was terrified. There were certain foods that I was scared to eat, and it's obviously now I can look back and think it was crazy, but you get so caught up with it at the time, and it's just getting over that kind of head fuck, basically, of thinking that you're going to balloon overnight, because you just won't. You just can't. And actually your brain and your body need that food. So yeah, just please eat and don't be scared to eat.
Yeah, I think from my personal experience, the most important thing is to have a good coach. And from what my own experience has been, the best coaches aren't always the ones that know, you know, the best 100% optimal training plan or food plan. It's actually the ones that have the kind of awareness and that kind of psychological background or psychology background. My coach personally actually did a major in sports psychology, and I think it does help because it's not, I kind of see it as a triangle. I don't know about yourself. You've got food, you've got food, you've got training, but there's also the mindset. And I think for everything to work in sync, they all have to work together. And I think mindset is one area that is often neglected or kind of not seen as important. And I think definitely when you come out of your show, it's making sure you've got that right guidance, because I think you can be in a bit of a daze, if that makes sense, when you come out, and you need someone who knows what they're doing to tell you this is okay, keep going, this is what you need to do. So I think some people kind of don't have a coach in off season, but whatever person that I've spoken to, whether they've been a client of mine or not, I've always said to them, make sure after your show, for I'd say at least 4 to 8 weeks, I don't know about yourself, have a coach still there, because people kind of think, oh, I've done 12 weeks, that's it, I don't need someone. It's like, no, you need someone even more so now you're out of your show.
I'm literally just sitting here nodding, agreeing with you. I just, totally. Yeah, I needed someone at no point, I needed someone kind of that I respected to actually say to me, Katt, you need to eat, like, you are not fat. Like, if I'd have had someone kind of saying that to me, I think it would have helped, but I just felt very isolated. And yeah, like I say, I wasn't really given much guidance, you know, by my previous coach. So I just kind of, just went off the rails ever so slightly. But yeah, I think, you know, mindset is the most important, because us girls are crazy anyway.
Especially when you take our fats away, then your hormones just go out of whack and then you just lose it.
Hey, do you know, you're exhausted, you know, you've been in a deficit for however long. Like, yeah, no, it's so important to have someone to kind of get your mind straight, I think. Yeah.
You struggled after your shows. How did you kind of come out of that? Kind of if there's any mindset routines that you did, or any practices in particular, like what was it that has got you to this point now that you're in a really, really good place, you know, with your body, with your food, that sort of thing?
Really, because because obviously, you know, I made myself very ill, and I'm like you say, I was very open about, you know, what I've been through this last year, and like obviously I had a nervous breakdown, literally lost the plot. But the one thing that I took away from that is the positive body image that I have now. This is something I've never ever had ever in my 28 years. Like, I'm so happy and comfortable in kind of how I am now. I'm kind of almost glad it did happen in a way. But I mean, I stayed very, very lean for a very, very long time, you know, months and months post show, and it was not good. And it just got to the point where I was like, right, Katt, you can either stop being an egg and gain some weight quickly, or you can carry on being ill and miserable. So I think it was for about, I don't know, 3 weeks. I just ate whatever I wanted, didn't care, and gained weight pretty quickly. And that, obviously, my body was a lot happier. But yeah, I mean, I could be here all day, I'll be honest. It's been a year of kind of ups and downs, but I think more recently it's just looking after yourself and actually not being so hard on yourself.
So what do you think? Oh, sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, I've kind of, it got to the point where, so basically I kind of started to get better, and, you know, I'd put on some weight, and things were going okay. And then some things happened in my life which kind of caused me to have a relapse, basically. And I went back to being kind of housebound, and like literally I just wasn't living. And I was kind of trying to force myself to train and like do all these things that I felt like I should be doing, because I kind of felt like they were expected of me. And it just got to the point where I was like, you know what, this is just silly. What is the point? And I stopped training, which was very odd. So well, the plan was to have a week off. I ended up having 4 weeks off, and it was just really. I went to some seminars about a month or so ago, and they kept saying, like, you should focus on the boring stuff. Everyone ignores the boring stuff. So I was like, I'm going to focus on the boring stuff. So I started going to bed at 9:30, 10 every night, eating enough. I started sleeping, like I was sleeping for the first time in over a year, because that was another thing. I hadn't had a night's sleep for about 12 months. Stopped training and gave up caffeine, just all these little things. And it was almost like overnight, my body was just like, thank God, Kat. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, like I feel so well in myself now, but it's only really been the last 2-3 weeks maybe that I've kind of been like this and been able to kind of go back to work properly, and like, yeah, I don't know really.
No, that's really interesting to hear. And I think it's definitely something that it's easy for anyone to overlook, in the sense of, you think about, oh, what training split should I be doing? What nutrition timing should I be doing? And I've had a few questions in the past that people have asked me, the really smallest things, like, oh, what supplements should I be taking to help me sleep? I'm like, well, what time are you going to bed? 1. How are you on your phone before you go to bed? Yes. And when's the last time you had caffeine? 9 o'clock. And it's like, well, there's the answer. It's not a case of what do you need to buy, in the sense. It's what do you actually need to proactively do, and what little changes can you actually make that can make the biggest difference and the biggest impact, as you say.
Yeah, 100%. I'm seeing her nodding again. Yeah, I mean, it's very strange, because I put in one of my posts, like, I've got this photo shoot in 7 weeks time, and it was kind of like, not many people's transformations start with them giving up training. And yeah, it's just, you've got to do what's right for you. And it finally got to the point where I was like, you know what, I can't be someone who I feel like I should be. I just need to be myself and be happy. And, at the moment, my training, has gone from being like a 6-day kind of really regimented kind of split to, like, tonight I'm going to go and train back after work, and I'm just gonna, I'm gonna do some kind of solid compound movements, and then I'm just gonna kind of freestyle it, like, yeah. That's just because it makes me happy, and I'm not training with any particular goal in mind other than to just enjoy it at the moment. And that's just what I've got to do for me, and I kind of urge people to do that themselves, because I think, once you compete, you feel like that's it. Like, you kind of have to carry on with it, and you want to, like, I do want to compete again, don't get me wrong, but there's other things as well in my life that are more important, and I kind of was just completely neglecting them and ignoring them. And I don't know, there's more to life than competing. That sounds awful. I don't like saying that, like, but competing is a hobby, and I love it, and I love bodybuilding, and I've loved it for 5 years, and I get bored very easily. So, but yeah, I mean, like, there are other things that can make you happy that aren't training nutrition. Yeah. Just the little things, and that's what that's what's important. That's what you're gonna remember when you're older, not like, how many, if you hit your macros to the gram, or if you missed a training session. Like, it's not the end of the world. And that was something that again, only recently, is I've kind of found the ability to kind of let things go and not worry too much about, if I don't do all my training sessions in a week, like, nothing bad's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. As long as I'm happy, as long as anyone's happy, that's the most important thing.
So you talk about this lean obsession, continuing on for that. So you talk about this lean obsession, and how a lot of a lot of female competitors can kind of find this very, very difficult to come out of. And from my personal standpoint on this, I definitely think in Instagram in itself, it's a blessing and a curse. Mm-hmm. So I just want to see what your opinions were in terms of the growth of Instagram and the growth of competing, and that kind of increased sense of pressure, I would say, and yeah, kind of seeing where your stance is on that, and what you think, whether it's kind of for me personally, I used to struggle very much with comparing myself to other Instagrammers, other competitors, and actually forgetting that there is a life outside of the stage, and they do have their own lives and their own difficulties outside of that stage. Whether they choose to portray that is a different thing, but I think it can have a knock-on effect on how kind of people construct certain realities and opinions about maybe certain people and about the industry itself, which kind of maybe can, that this obsession, even in the off season, there's a lot of obsession to, you've got to stay lean during the off season.
Yeah.
And I think that can kind of put girls in a bit of a, excuse my French, in a bit of a head fuck, because you're like, whoa, they're eating 3,000 calories, but they still look that slim, and I'm eating only 2,000, and I've got a little bit of fat here and a little bit of fat there. And I think that's where sometimes there's perhaps a bit of a disconnect.
Massively. I mean, again, like, this is something that that I've only really realised very recently. I mean, I always kind of, the whole time I've worked in the fitness industry, kind of felt like I needed to stay relatively lean. And then obviously when you compete, you kind of take it to the next level. But it's just not healthy. Like, I've been every size. I've been every size. I've been every shape. Like, I've been stage lean. I've been like a size 18. Like, I've dieted and gained, like, lost weight, put on weight my whole life. And like, the thing I really, really understand now is that I am still the same person at the end of the day. Like, it doesn't matter what I look like, but there is so much pressure. Like, I still feel it to a point now. Like, I feel like people look at me and think, oh, she's let herself go, or like, she doesn't take it seriously, which is absolute bollocks. Like, of course I take it seriously, but I also take kind of my health seriously. And I think, obviously, if you're in the kind of competitive world, you understand it a bit more. But from the outside, I used to look at girls and think, how on earth are they staying looking like that? Like, I'd kind of look at myself and be like, why am I all soft? And like, it's a lot of it is angles and lighting and pictures.
Man, angles are a game changer, but they can be at the same time very very misconstruing, if that's the right word to say.
Massively. And it's like, it's I don't know what it is about having like little squares on your tummy that people are so obsessed with. Like, but I used to be like it as well. That's the thing. I used to, that meant that I was fitness. But it's like, I would say I'm more fitness now, and I definitely don't have those squares on my tummy at the moment. Like, I don't know, the health and fitness industry isn't the health industry.
Well, it's interesting when you actually look back historically over body image and social status. So, sorry, everyone, giving you a bit of a history lesson here. I hate history, but when it comes to this, it's quite interesting. King Henry, and that was actually seen as kind of like you're very high up in the social hierarchy, and it was very much like that. The bigger, more, well, is that the right word to say, Katt? The bigger you were, the more kind of high social status and hierarchy that you had, whereas it's kind of been flipped on its side now, whereas you're kind of seeing more higher up the food chain or social chain, the leaner you are, which has definitely been a massive shift in comparison to what it used to be, for sure.
It's very odd how body type trends go in and out of fashion, because I mean, at the moment it's very kind of trendy to be a little bit muscular, have a big curvy bum and kind of have all these like curves and stuff. But I mean, when I first started training, it was, bikini body, like, as in like very thin. That's what everyone wanted to be, extremely thin. Like, and it's very bizarre. But I mean, my opinion on it, and this is what I tell, I have clients come to me and they're like, I want to look like this person. And I'm like, you will never look like that person, because you are not that person. Like, you can only be, the best version of yourself, as cheesy as that is. Like, to my clients, I'm like, as long as you're happy and healthy, you can't not look good. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, if you're enjoying what, I'm all for training and eating well and things like that, but like, you have to enjoy the process of whatever you're doing. And definitely having no body fat isn't a goal. Like, you feel like crap. People, it used to wind me up, because people would kind of make comments and kind of, like, especially men would be like, oh, you know, you're so attractive, and I'd be like, honestly, I feel like absolute crap. Like, this is not sexy. Like, for me, competing and getting that lean is for stage. Like, it's not, you know, to be honest, you feel that rubbish, you can't even really enjoy it. Like, it's not like you're like, oh yeah, you know, I'm looking great. You're just kind of like, oh, when's the show? Like, do you know what I mean?
You
Like,
literally have a pineapple hair. Your eyebrows haven't been done in like 5 days because you just cannot be bothered. And you're like, yummy. I look great.
glamorous at all, but it's sport, and that is how it is. You know, you,
Yeah.
especially as a natural female competitor, it's hard work. We're not supposed to look like that. It's not a natural thing. We're supposed to be a bit squishy, and I'm all for it. Like I say, you know, I will compete again. I love it. I love the challenge. I love muscles. I love veins. I'm a little weirdo, but like, it's a sport. It's not to look nice in a dress or like be attractive to anyone, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of girls think, oh yeah, you know, they see these girls looking all shredded and they're like, I want to look like that, and they're like, oh, do a bikini competition, and it's like, no. It's not how it works.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Because how long ago was it that you kind of came across competing?
Well, it was always something. I'm trying to think. It must have been about maybe 2 years or a year and a half into kind of just training. And there was like a local show, and I was going to do that, and I just wasn't mentally ready. I was very lean at this point, but you know, I didn't have much muscle. Had a bit, but you know, I probably would. I probably would have done all right. Like, I looked okay, but I was a lot younger, and it just wasn't the right time.
Mm.
I'm so glad I waited, because up until kind of when everything went a bit tits up, I had the best experience, and I wouldn't have changed it. I wouldn't change it for the world. But it's always kind of been on my radar. The thought of it kind of interested me, but I just never thought, one, that I'd be good enough, or two, that I kind of would dare take my clothes off in front of anyone.
What moment was it that you kind of like a key moment that you just thought, right, screw it, I'm just going to do this? Because your posing, I remember seeing it, was really, really good, considering that you've never been on stage before. You came across very confident, and
Oh my
that's something that a lot of girls struggle
God.
with as well.
Yeah, that's mental. I had an amazing posing coach. I had Audrey as my posing coach, and she was ace. I remember turning up to my first ever posing class, and like, oh my God, I was absolutely terrified. Like, I'd made my mum come to London with me because I didn't dare get the tubes on my own, and like, I think she took the one look at me and was like, we've got a lot of work to do. But yeah, I couldn't have got on stage without that woman, honestly. Like, my routine was literally just walking and standing, and it took me so long to like get the hang of it. But no, I remember the day I decided I wanted to compete. I was in the car with my mum on the way home from Birmingham shopping, and I was in a bit of I was going through a bit of a hard time, and I mentioned it to her, and she was like, oh, you know, why don't you message this person and see if they'll take one as a client? I was like, oh, I don't know. And I sent the message, and he got straight back to me, and I met him the next day, and that was it. It was like I kind of went into like a mass gain period for 3 months, and then went into prep in the February, and that was it. It happened very, very quickly. But yeah, no, I loved it. I loved it.
Just
I can't.
bite. Sometimes you have to bite the bullet, don't you, and just go for it.
Yeah, that was it. Like, I don't think I really had much chance to think about it. It was just kind of like, oh, we're doing this now. So yeah, but like I say, I had thought about it. You know, it wasn't. I didn't just decide, kind of really spontaneously. It was something that I'd always had in the back of my mind over like years, basically, and it was just the right time. I think it was the right time.
So you spoke about previously that you work with a lot of clients pre-show, post-show. What do you give to them, and how do you help them before they step on stage, after they step on stage, and maybe in terms of the time scale where you're at now? How do you help them throughout every single process to make sure that in terms of their mental health and how they feel, their relationship with themselves, body, food, training, etc., to make sure that doesn't kind of disintegrate just because of the show?
Well, actually, I made the decision maybe kind of a month ago, that I don't want to take on any clients, competitive clients really anymore. I'm doing a couple of kind of mass game periods for clients, but I'm actually going to then pass them on to the prep coach, well, my coach actually, because he's awesome, and I trust him. But I mean, bodybuilding was always, and competing was just my hobby. So I want to take my work back to kind of just normal people in air quotes, like that, just kind of just health and lifestyle stuff really. But I mean, in regards to kind of how I've helped clients in the past, like, I mean, my last client that competed, I was just in contact with her all the time, like, and made those lines of communication very open. She could come to me about anything. And I think, like, you have to say, you know, they will say things like, I'm fat, I'm bloated, I'm this, I'm that, and you just kind of have to just be honest with them, like, no, you are not. Like, you are ridiculously lean. You're doing amazing. Carry on as you are. Just follow the plan, basically. And then kind of post show again. I know I did my client's head in poor release show. I was like, every day I was like, are you okay? How's everything going? She was like, fine. And I was like, okay, well, if you need anything, I'm here. Like, ring the ref all the time. But I think it was just because I knew what it was like myself. Yeah. To be fair, she's a very, very strong-minded girl. Probably more strong-minded than me, and she kind of took it in her stride, and I was very, very proud of the way she handled it. But like we said earlier, like, I think post-show is a very, very delicate time, and I think actually even months and months after, kind of when everything's died down a bit, and that's the kind of dangerous time, not even necessarily directly post-show, if that makes sense. That's just kind of what I've witnessed and kind of experienced with others, but I guess everyone has their own opinion on that.
Yeah, definitely. It can vary a lot, but as you say, it's good that is it Alicia? Is that her name?
Alicia, yeah.
Alicia, at least she had that kind of support system, because I switched coaches actually straight after my show, and I'm very, very glad that I did, because my coach was very much, he told me what he was doing. So he's like, add X amount of fat, do this. And he was explaining why I was doing it as well, which kind of gave it a lot of context. And he still does it now. He explains every single decision he makes. He tells me why. And I think having kind of to accept information, be like, oh, okay, and do it. But I think once you understand why you're doing certain things, it can kind of make the whole process, it makes it a lot more clearer. So you know where you're heading. And I think anticipating what's going to happen as well, I think helps a lot with competitors in the past, whether that's been a friend or a client. Telling them, you might feel like this, you might, this might happen, that might happen, but giving them that anticipation, so when it does come, they know it's not a massive shock. Because I think when people go into shock, it's when all rational thoughts and actions go completely out the window. So if you can tell someone, I think personally, if you're someone listening to this, anticipate those feelings and ask people, how are you going to feel? What different struggles or problems could you face, and how could you deal with them, instead of kind of going into the unknown? I would definitely, I don't know about you, Kat, but definitely recommend people to, do your research. Don't just research how to get lean. Research how to get out of stage leanness as well. I think that can definitely help a few people kind of potentially avoid the sticky situation where they feel very lost, they potentially feel quite isolated, and they're not really sure where to go and where to turn to.
Yeah, massively. I think it's so important to like educate yourselves. I can't really understand how anyone would just follow a plan blindly and kind of trust a coach just being kind of like, yeah, just do this. Like, I've got myself a new coach now, AJ, and he's awesome. Like, any questions, like it was very, very important to me, like, because I know a lot anyway. That sounds really big-headed and awful, like I know a lot, but because I'm quite well educated in nutrition and training, I've been doing it for however long, I really wanted a coach that I could actually learn something from. I didn't want someone to just tell me what to do. And I came across AJ and I was like, yeah, this is the guy. I just want his brain, basically. And there's literally currently no one else. I don't know when I'm going to be competing again. I'm hoping next year, but I'm not that's not a definite. But yeah, there's no one else I'd want to bring me in for a show, just because I trust him. And even with the small things we're doing now at the moment, I mean, I'm an absolute nightmare client, I'll be honest. Like, if I was my own client, Jesus, but he's been amazing and very understanding with kind of what I've been going through. But yeah, like even kind of the bits and bobs we've been doing, working together, now I've learned so much from him, and I think it's so important to find a coach that knows their stuff and actually use them and actually kind of make the most of that time you're working with them, and like I say, steal their brain a little bit and get that knowledge in your own.
Definitely. No, I do agree. It's obviously trusting them to follow the plan, but at the same time, as you say, just kind of using their knowledge just so you can kind of develop, because you, at the end of the day, you never know how long you're going to be working with that client for, and as long as you can learn and take things on board, then I definitely think it does help. So the next kind of topic that I've got written down here is how to improve your relationship with body and with your body and with kind of the food that you eat. I know you've been quite vocal on social media about, you know, self-love and being very mindful and eating good nutritious food. I know when you were struggling at the beginning of this year, that was something that you really were trying to kind of teach, well, just kind of just teach and show people how they can kind of have that balancing act when it comes to, you know, being happy with yourself and eating that good food and so on and so forth. So I don't know if you can speak to us a little bit about that.
It's really weird, actually. Someone messaged me yesterday or the day before, and they were like, you know, how are you so comfortable in your how you look? You know, how did you get there, kind of thing? And I was like, well, it literally has been 28 years of a lot of self-loathing, and I don't know. Everyone talks about balance, and I don't know. I think the majority of people actually don't have it, kind of, especially in the fitness industry, because it's such an extreme kind of industry. And I'm still finding my groove with it, but I really do think I'm getting there for the first time in my whole life. Kind of one thing actually that I will say is something that I changed last year was I will never speak negatively out loud about my own body. You know how girls are always like, oh, I'm so fat, or oh, like, and actually when you put something out kind of into the universe, as it were, and say it almost makes it true. And I very consciously am aware of what I say about myself out loud. You know, everyone has thoughts, but you will not ever hear me say I'm fat or like anything really negative. Like, you know, I word it differently. So like, you know, if everyone has bad days. Like, you know, if I'm like, oh, I say that I'm feeling this way rather than that I am this way, if that makes sense. It's such a weird little thing, but it's made a massive difference to kind of how I see myself in the mirror. And it's loving yourself. It's cheesy as hell, but like, you know, I don't think I'm better than anyone else, but I look after my body and I'm nice to it and I feed it and I do training, and like I look in the mirror and I think, you know, I look all right. Like, I don't hate myself, and that has come from years and years of hating myself. And like I say, you know, I've been every size under the sun. Had the year from absolute hell, I'll be honest. And I don't know. It would take me about an hour probably to tell you kind of how I've got to this point, but that's something I want to do with my own work and my own clients is kind of give them that feeling of being comfortable in your own skin, because it's a great feeling, but it definitely didn't happen overnight. And the food, in regards to food, again, a lot better with it. Like yesterday, I spent the majority of the day eating a pizza brownie, which was amazing.
I saw that.
It was, oh my days,
It looked
beautiful.
so good.
And that, you know, even up to like a month ago, eating that would have scared me, and I would have overthought it a lot and been like, oh crap, like probably shouldn't be doing it. And I just thought, no, like my friend offered to make me like my own dairy-free version, and I was just like, you know, it's what's going to happen. And I woke up this morning actually I think I'd filled out a bit from having the extra carbs. I looked all defined, and I was like, oh wow, I've got like brownie definition.
Brownie gains all the way.
It was great, and I was like, oh, well, nothing bad happened. I haven't gained 10 stone overnight. Like, and I've just gone back to eating what I'd normally eat today, just mostly whole foods, but
Yeah.
probably going to put a macaroon in my oats later. Like, it's like anything goes in oats. It's the rule.
It's
Like,
true.
if you put something in oats, it's fine. Like, this is what it's actually Alicia, we always say it. I'm always like, they're for my oats, so it's totally okay.
Yeah, it's always that questions you're like, yeah, it's for oats. They're like, oh, they like step back. They're like, oh, okay, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. No, yeah. But I mean, I went through stages of like really badly binge eating as well, like really emotional kind of, let's put 20 million calories in my body all at once. And again, like I could be here all day kind of talking about my relationship with food over the years. But again, I think I'm finding a place where I'm not obsessed with food. Like it's weird because like sometimes that like I know I've got like 3 meals to eat and it's already like I'm going to work in a bit and I don't know when I'm going to have time to do it. Whereas before, like I probably would have eaten those all by lunchtime and been like, oh right, well, I don't know. Just everything seems to be nice and balanced at the moment. But it's like I said, it's taken a very long time to get here.
You talk about, you're so busy with work and other commitments. Food has kind of taken not a step back, but the focus is kind of diverted, and that kind of leads on to the balancing competing and fitness in life. So do you feel that since you've potentially stepped back from competing, and I see on your Instagram story, you're always at Starbucks, spending time with family, and they're all really, really important things. So do you think that's potentially played a role at all with diverting that attention, and now you're getting to the point you're like, oh damn, like I'm so focused on everything else, my other passions in life, and now you've got to catch up with 3 meals. Does that make sense?
Yeah, massively. Like, yeah, like I love that you watch my stories, by the way. I always think like because I always put loads of like non-fitness related stuff on there, like just a lot of my dog and like you say, my family and stuff. But like, yeah, like that has become because I'm so much better as well. Like that's become so much more important. It's just kind of living and spending time with people and yeah. Going to family barbecues and like going out for coffee. I do basically live at Starbucks. But yeah, I mean, like my food focus has just gone. Like I'm kind of, it'll get to a point in the day and I'm like, oh my God, I'm really hungry. Like, wow, this is crazy. Rather than thinking, oh my God, I need to eat this.
Sorry to interrupt this podcast, guys, but I've just realised as I was editing this that it cut out halfway through, and I definitely know why. The dog was around when I was recording and walked through one of the wires. I thought it would be fine, so I just like slotted it back in and kept talking, but obviously didn't realise that stops the recording altogether. So really, really sorry guys that we're gonna have to cut this short. But to be honest, this was we were getting to the end of the podcast anyway, thank God. That would have been a disaster. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. And if you want to connect with Katt at all or ask her any questions, then you can catch her on Facebook. I'll leave the description and the details kind of in the description podcast area. And her Instagram is Deadliftsarebae, which is ended in BAE. So thank you so much for listening. Really sorry to cut this off, but more of the story is the dog isn't going anywhere near me when I'm recording. So peace out, guys. I'll see you in the next one.